2014 European Spring Promotion Tournament live from Cologne, Germany. Right now we're happy to be joined once again by Team Alternates jungler Araneae, myself Riv, and QuickShot to go to the analyst desk here. We saw game 2. It was pretty much the Forgiven story, so we're going to put that one aside for now, and we're really going to touch on game 1 here. 56-minute game, 50 kills, kind of starts to spell the chaos of what happened coming into this matchup. Trev, what did it look like to you?
It was messy, to be very, very honest. You know, during the early stages of the game, Copenhagen Wolves, they started pushing the top lane. They did the 2v1 swap. They had Caitlyn and Annie pushing down the lane, and MYM just sat back. They didn't counter push. They didn't try, shove their lanes out. They didn't take advantage of the numbers that they had in different parts of the map. We push a little bit later into the game, then you have team fights that are ridiculously chaotic. They were all over the place. Like
a little bit.
For the first 35, 40 minutes, you had 4 people dead on each side at the end of every fight. And it was just, it just felt very sloppy. It just felt very uncoordinated, I think is a good word for it. And, I know that when I was looking at the individual plays, you had some strong thoughts about the compositions, MYM in particular.
Yeah, actually on this new patch, I really felt like MYM comp was really strong compared with Copenhagen Wolves comp. That was pretty much what I said. Like, MYM had really strong picks, like it's Mundo, like it's Evelyn, like it's even Lucian. And Copenhagen Wolves had like not really that strong picks. Maybe Kathy was a good pick against these 4 squeezes, but Caitlyn isn't that strong anymore compared with other 80s. Like it's Sivir, like it's Lucian, like it's Jinx right now.
Yeah, and Sivir was open, interestingly.
Absolutely, but we hear the Forgiven doesn't play it, but I think we can see why. Caitlyn coming in. So talking about team compositions, 56-minute game seems to be a bit of a stall, and that seems to be more apparent here in 3.14. Why is that?
Yeah, well, actually, like, defensive match series right now we have, it makes tanks really OP. Like, champions like Mundo is really strong right now in the metagame. Sivana is really strong. Rengar, that is actually banned, is really strong. That kind of champion is really strong on the metagame. That makes really long games, because they are focusing on that kind of stuff, right? Like late game compositions. And we see in this team comp, they have a really late game. That's why Nasus is also really strong.
And talking about the late game team comps, the chaos in this, we're going to bring up a replay now to kind of depict what really went on during that game. Trevor, walk us through it before we bring it up.
So just before we jump into the replay, I think this is arguably the fight that swung things in the favor of MYM. Yeah. Up until this point, we're approaching 29 minutes into the game. It's 7 kills to 5, as the score is. There's about 3,000 goal difference between these two teams. Let me pull the replay up on your screen right now, and you can actually take a look. It breaks out in the mid lane, and up until this point, you can still see the metrics and everything still very, very close. But this is another one of these chaotic, sort of messy fights. And, Araneae, you can actually talk us through it.
Yeah, well, first of all, I would say, like, Copenhagen Wolves had only 80 damage. They have full 80 damage with Kha'Zix, with Nasus, with Caitlyn. They have almost no AP, only Elise and Annie. And Elise didn't build any AP damage. So that's mainly the point, that in late game, MYM will have a really strong team if they use focus on armor items. And in this team fight, we had, like, Kha'Zix was coming there. Kathy was coming there to the team fight, and Thresh hooked them. We'll see, like, if you can put play on the replay. Okay, we see Kha'Zix getting Thresh getting Kha'Zix. We pause it here, and we see how Mundo is teleporting behind all the team, and Nasus is gonna teleport as well. We already saw how Kha'Zix dropped half of his HP by only Thresh and Thix damage, and now it's gonna be Thix and Lucian make full damage to the back line of Copenhagen Wolves, while Copenhagen Wolves can't do anything because Thix and Lucian has so much range.
Yeah, and this is, again, just as these fights carried on, it's all over the place. People are just carrying on with their actions. They're not really sticking to single targets. Play through the replay here, and, what else is happening here right now?
We see Kha'Zix get the first refresh on the ultimate, on the E, sorry, but now it's Evelyn one shot, singly alone Annie, and now it's Mundo in the middle of the team fight. Mundo is killing Caitlyn alone, Mundo is gonna kill Kha'Zix alone, and Mundo is gonna kill even Elise. Like, he's gonna get so fed in this team fight. And a Mundo fed is something you're not gonna see in this patch.
Yeah, it's just something that I don't think either team was really prepared for. It didn't look like they were really, coordinating as a unit. You can see their Elise being shut down by Cubon's Mundo. And after they pick up the ace, ends up moving over to pick up the first Baron of the game. I think they got 3 if memory serves.
Yeah,
and I think
you can do that in 56
Copenhagen
minutes.
Wolves got 1, if I recall correctly. And it was back-to-back-to-back aces, which MYM did do a good job of getting some towers off later on.
And watching that replay, if you were looking at the inventory, the items were a bit different that game. And even Jap pointed out in the beginning, the Evelyn quickly coming out with the Golem Spirit instead of the Spectral Wraith. And as a jungler, what did this do to your mind?
It's a bit like strange because when I play Evelyn, we usually go for the Spectral Wraith item that gives you so much survivability in jungle. It gives you like almost full HP every time you clear a camp. And right after the Spectral Wraith item, against this kind of comp, you have to go either for Sonias, either for Deathfire Grasp. And just one guy, like Kaelin and Kha'Zix, should be like half SP with only Ultimate and Deathfire Grasp by Evelyn. It's so much damage coming from this combo. But he didn't build Deathfire Grasp. He went for Thonias, Golem, and I think it was Liandry's, Rylai's, and body stuff. So he went like
Everybody had a little too much money.
Yeah, somehow of full AP, but not the real core items on Evelyn, from my point of view.
Talking about some of the other items, I was chatting to Bjergsen actually about the match as it was rolling on, and he commented on Charu's build on Ziggs, and he says every time they've played against MYM in scrims, this is with Team Solar Mid, Charu always goes Tia into Haunting guys, and he doesn't deviate from it. He's like, this is just Charu's build. Like, it's just the way Charu plays.
Gonna work.
And it's a mindset that's quite interesting. Some of the guys were also commenting on that Spirit of the Ancient Golem, saying, well, he hasn't transitioned. He hasn't moved to the new item. It could be that MYM are sticking to what they know, what they're comfortable with, as opposed to maybe shifting with the times, you know. And it's a question that we'll have to pose to them directly later, but it's a possibility.
For me, in kind of team comps, like from game 1 and game 2, I feel like they are not adapting correctly to the actual meta game. Like right now in top lane, yeah, probably Mundo is a really strong pick. Also, Sivana is a really strong pick, but they are not like, in the second game we saw a comp by MYM was Evelyn, Six, Tweets, I think it was Annie?
Tryndamere.
And Tryndamere.
Yeah.
They have no tank. And we were talking about like, yeah, maybe Tryndamere can split push and can make like a really hard time to Copenhagen Wolves. But even if Tryndamere split push, they still don't have a tank on the comp. If you go with that kind of comp with Tryndamere, you need one tank. You need at least like a Tryndamere mid lane and a tank top lane, or Tryndamere top lane and attack in jungle. You need something that can tank the comp of Copenhagen Wolves, because at that moment, Kha'Zix can get a reset from every champion of your makers.
Well, these first 2 games have been trial and error for both teams. Both have seemed to fix what is wrong or started with what was right. But now that you've heard what we had to say, let's check our thoughts on the promotion tournament, your thoughts rather. Earlier today, we asked you, which team do you most want to see earn a spot in the European LCS and why? And here are your favorite answers. Trevor, want to read the first one?
At Stone Snipe, you gave me an easy one, thanks. He says that the Copenhagen Wolves, they are arguably lost their 2 strongest players to Fnatic and Alliance and still tore their way through the qualifiers. I think that's a fair point to make, but they looked a little shaky in game 1.
Absolutely. Jumping on to the second one, Zawisky Lol says, I really want to see KMT. They have a solid roster, and Jankos is the best Lee Sin I have ever seen.
Hang on.
All right, I'm glad we have Araneae here.
You
How do you feel?
I don't know. I feel weird a bit about that. I guess I really think like right now, I have to say the best Lee Sin, or probably the best jungler in Europe, is Suk. He's the old jungler of Copenhagen Wolves, and he's really, really strong. He stepped up his gameplay. I saw like some months ago when he was starting to play in Copenhagen Wolves, he was more like a solo queue player. But right now, he's really, really solid, and probably, for me, the best jungler right now in Europe.
We'll have to see how his Lee Sin does, I think. For the final one, at iLagos1, he says, SK Gaming has to prove they can be an LCS caliber team without Ocelot, and I want to see them earn it. That's an honest enough response.
And, you know, being a member of that once, what was it like with the mentality? Is that something they can do and overcome, or was that a very key factor for them?
No, I mean, they can overcome. Like, the bottom lane of SK is really, really strong, really solid. Like, Candy Panda and Nif is probably one of the best bottom lanes in Europe right now. Like, I don't see any weak point on that bottom lane. And also, the rest of the lanes are playing really solid, as far as I know. So, I really think SK has a really high chances on this qualifier.
All right. So, keep those answers coming all weekend long. Remember, we're at LOL Esports, and be sure to use the